On March 12, 2023, police in Vancouver, Washington received a call from a worried grandmother. Her daughter and granddaughter, 27 and 6 years old, had gone missing. Meshay was a single mother, and her daughter Layla was her whole world. There was no obvious reason for them to abscond without telling their family members. Something darker was at play.
It's been since last Sunday since anybody heard, seen, or talked to my daughter and granddaughter.
I'm missing a whole part of me. That's my sister and that's my niece. We don't know where they're at.
One of the last people to see Meshay Melendez alive was this man, Kirkland Warren. He was Meshay's ex-boyfriend, and they'd had a tumultuous relationship. But Kirkland said they were working things out, or they had been, when Meshay and her daughter disappeared. A young mother and a vulnerable child. It was imperative that the police find these two missing persons as soon as possible. But soon enough, their investigations would reveal a twisted history and a murder that would leave Vancouver scarred for generations to come.
I don't come here with all questions. I do have some answers. What do you think my answers are?
Let's uncover those answers here on The Decoder, where we'll dive into exclusive interview and body cam footage to tell the terrible story of what happened to Meshay Melendez. Vancouver, Washington is one of the state's most populous cities. On the border with Oregon and close to the West Coast, it has a violent crime rate of 6.32 per 1,000 residents. This is higher than the state average, and made it even more concerning when Meshay Melendez and her daughter went missing in March 2023. 27-year-old Meshay was last seen with her daughter Layla by a friend in a burgundy Dodge Charger on the morning of March 12th. The driver of this car was Kirkland Warren, her ex-boyfriend. It seemed likely that he had been the last person to see Meshay alive. March 22nd, 2023. What seemed like an ordinary day in a prison in Vancouver, but for this detective, waiting at the chess table to conduct an interview, it was the most important day in this case. He'd been tasked with finding missing Meshay and Layla. He could only hope he'd ask all the right questions.
I guess first of all, how are you holding up?
As I can.
As you can, okay. Because we're here in a jail, I'm gonna read your Miranda rights. So, I'm a missing persons detective, okay? I also do a few other things like cell phones and computers. I'm a bit of a geek, but part of me being a geek is I also have to do missing persons. So in my missing persons investigation, Joanne told me at some point in the night of March 12th, she saw you with, is it Meshay or Misha?
Meshay.
Kirkland said that he, Meshay, and Layla had stayed the night together in a friend's apartment.
Did she say she was going somewhere? Can you tell me anything about that?
No, because there was no talk about going anywhere. We had went out. Well, initially we came over to Joe's house because she was a mutual friend.
Okay.
We just came over there, like, this is really my girlfriend, so.
So you guys went over to Joe's because she's a mutual friend, right?
And we were literally just going to talk and be together. Like, we slept together that night, everything.
He said they were meeting to reconcile after some drama in their relationship. According to him, everything went well that night, and they left Joe's house in the morning as planned.
Joe says that she saw, at some point in the night, you and Meshay left, you guys came back, and then you and left the apartment with Meshay, who apparently was out in your car. What kind of car do you drive?
Charger.
The Dodge Charger, right? Yeah. And then where did you guys go after that?
It wasn't nighttime then, it was the morning time. We didn't go anywhere. Meshay had parked the car down the street. We went down the street and took her to the car.
Oh, okay.
And that was it.
Kirkland told the investigator that Meshay had left her car further down the street and that he drove her and her daughter over to it. He let them out and they drove away. This, according to him, was the last time he ever saw the pair alive. Meshay and Layla were reported missing on March 18th, 6 days later. Meshay was an independent woman with her own life, but she wouldn't do something reckless like disappear without telling her family. She took good care of her daughter, who often appeared in her TikTok videos, doing dances with her mom. Layla, though only 6, was doing well in school and had a promising life ahead of her. Meshay once said, "I don't know how I got blessed with such an amazing daughter. She was beloved by her mom and her mom's entire family, including Meshay's mother, Layla's grandmother. When her mom didn't hear from her all week, she called the police." The Vancouver Police Department conducted a welfare check on Meshay's apartment and found no sign of Meshay and Layla. But the next day, Meshay's mom, desperately searching for her daughter and granddaughter, discovered Meshay's car. It was abandoned in the Van Mall neighborhood, the same neighborhood where she and Layla had stayed with Kirkland on the night of the 11th. Kirkland said he'd tried to contact her that same day.
And then I tried contacting her later on that day because she had left her purse. And then
So, I'm sorry, she left her purse?
she left her purse.
Okay, so she left her purse in your car?
Yeah.
Okay.
But literally after that, Joe, even then, I had tried to, I didn't call her on a regular phone. I called her Google Duo, just because she said it was the safest. Called her Google Duo, she wasn't picking up.
And this is because she's missing, right? Like you were trying to get a hold of her and you couldn't.
I mean, it wasn't a big concern at first because
Okay.
I literally just thought she was just ignoring me for a little bit or something.
Kirkland and Meshay had an on-again, off-again relationship. It didn't seem unusual that she wouldn't contact him for a while. He said he went to a bagel shop after dropping her off and then to another friend's house, Nettie's. Her absence didn't concern him until she was reported missing nearly a week later.
So where do you think they're at?
I don't know.
You don't know? Okay.
Is there any history of them running off?
Not that I know of.
No.
Okay, so when you went over to Nettie's, what did you and Nettie do?
We just hung out at a bagel and just watched TV.
Did you buy her a bagel too?
Yeah.
Is she like a girlfriend?
No.
No, she's just a friend.
Meshay is my girlfriend. Meshay is my girlfriend. But me and my wife are in the process of being separated.
Kirkland grew up in Pine Bluff, Arkansas. He was the son of a municipal judge who resigned in 2009 following allegations of misconduct, including second-degree forgery, abuse of office, and attempted theft of property. In the last few years, Kirkland had moved to Vancouver, Washington, where he married a woman named Mahek Tyler Warren. She and Kirkland had 2 daughters. Aged 26 in the spring of 2023, she worked at a bank in Portland. But she'd recently been accused of stealing money from customer accounts and transferring it to others. The theft amounted to nearly $25,000. This wasn't a random, unconnected incident. On November 21, 2022, Mahek's credentials were used to alter account information at the credit union in order to steal, and $20,000 was transferred into an account under Meshay Melendez's name. Meshay was also seen on surveillance footage opening an account at the credit union that same month and exiting Mahek's car. The 2 women knew each other and may have been tangled up in a criminal scheme together. This made sense with Meshay's social media presence. She was an active TikTok user until her last post on December 20th, 2022. Right around the time of the thefts from the credit union, she began to go dark online, perhaps trying to minimize her exposure in case of an investigation. In both of her last posts, she could be seen with Kirkland. But what was Meshay and Mahek's connection? How had they developed the scheme if they were indeed both involved? The only thing the 2 women had in common was one man, Kirkland Warren. And Mahek blamed Kirkland when she was questioned by police. She said she'd been changing the account information on behalf of her husband, who'd asked her to help him steal money. He said he was divorcing Mahek, but his relationship with her wasn't just turbulent, it was criminal. And this went for his relationship with Meshay, too. They'd been staying at their friend's apartment instead of one of their own for a specific reason, a restraining order.
You guys were going to stay, how long you guys been staying there?
Literally the first night.
Okay, gotcha.
Because we, like I said, wasn't trying to violate or get caught violating.
Understood.
The previous December, Meshay had called 911 to report that Kirkland had assaulted her, including firing shots at her balcony window as she was looking outside. In February, investigators had corroborated her story with a friend who was also present during the altercation. But a mere 2 weeks later, on February 17th, Meshay recanted the accusation. She said she'd lied about the shooting and that she and her friend both had mental health and substance abuse problems. She discredited herself and wanted the police to assure her that Kirkland wouldn't be arrested. But the police found this suspicious. On March 2nd, they arrested Kirkland on charges of second-degree domestic violence assault, drive-by shooting, making a false statement, harassment, and possession of a stolen firearm. The prosecutor said he posed an extreme risk to Meshay's safety, with a score of 31 on a scale of 1 to 18. The judge held him on bail of $100,000 and ordered a domestic violence no-contact order. Kirkland violated this order within only hours of its issue. He called Meshay twice from the Clark County Jail, saying she was the reason he'd been arrested and that he needed her to get the charges dropped. She said she was trying her best. He was released on bail later that day, but was cited in court for violating the no-contact order. A higher bail and GPS monitoring was ordered on March 6th, but the next day the case was dismissed and he was not fitted with a GPS monitor.
They're not protected. DV has never really been taken seriously. The restraining orders are false security blankets. He was released with no GPS in the first place.
With this troubled history, he was the first suspect the police looked to in their investigation of the mother and daughter's disappearance. They served a search warrant for his house and car, and on March 19th, they took him into custody based on the violation of the order.
Hey, show me your hands, it's the police. Put your hands on top of your head and release your fingers. Listen, you are under arrest for a violation, okay? Do you understand? If you do not obey commands, force may be used against you. Do you understand?
This gave the police the opportunity to interview him about Meshay and Layla.
So, I mean, I'm trying to gather leads, right? So if you were me, where would you go looking for, and again, if I find, I'm likely going to find Meshay, right? So where do you think they're hiding out at? Where do you think would go? Where would she want to be?
I don't know. The only, and then like I said, again, I'm not trying to point fingers or anything. Her ex-husband literally took and wouldn't give her back for a couple days, and we had an issue with that. So
when was that?
This was like sometime last year, maybe.
Kirkland suggested that maybe Meshay's ex-husband had something to do with it. But the police had already visited him and determined that Meshay and Layla weren't with him. And unlike Kirkland, he didn't have an outstanding no-contact order against him.
Fair enough. I'm trying not to get too involved in your other case, right? But like I said, I'm more interested in that little girl. Okay, that is, Meshay could be anywhere, right? But I mean, I'm sure you love that little girl like everybody else, right? I mean, that little girl got a lot of family, right?
Two of my own.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you, I'm really, when Meshay gave her brother the car, I'm the one that got up in the morning to take Layla to school every morning.
And you're kind of soft-spoken. Do you mind if I pull up a chair? Sweet, man.
There's no, I got a whole lot of shit I'm already dealing with, and this just makes everything worse.
Like what? Like your other cases?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I only had one other case, and I've never ran from it. I've always been at every court date on time. I posted bail, never got in trouble since. This is the most trouble I've been in since.
Kirkland presented himself, if not as an upstanding citizen, then at least one who was trying to do better and was complying with the terms of his past run-ins with the law. But this wasn't true, because there was something else the investigators knew about him. something that made him even more of a suspicious figure.
Where did you live before you lived here?
Arkansas.
Kirkland hadn't left Arkansas just because he longed for the western seaboard. He'd fled another criminal case, this time a murder. In November 2017, a 57-year-old man called Curtis Urquhart went missing in Pine Bluff, Arkansas. Earlier that year, he'd been charged with second-degree forgery and theft of property. His body was discovered lying in a ditch by 3 men on December 11th. He'd been shot in the head, and his body had been mutilated by wildlife. He'd last been seen leaving a law office with Kirkland, then 22, on November 27th. This threw Kirkland under suspicion of his murder, and the police brought him in for an interview. Kirkland admitted he'd killed Curtis. That same December, his Google history showed searches for how to get blood out of a car seat, how to beat murder, killing the only witness, and other ways to get away with murder. He'd said he and Curtis had left the notary's office together and driven around. When Curtis had started to demand money from him, Kirkland refused, but Curtis kept insisting, and he said he was scared for his life. He reached under the driver's seat and pulled out a handgun, which he used to shoot Curtis in the head. He then dumped Curtis's body in a ditch and drove away. Kirkland was charged with first-degree murder and abuse of a corpse. He was released on $250,000 bond and at some point between 2018 and 2020 moved across the country to Washington State. There, far from obeying the terms of his bail, he continued to violate it. In 2020, Vancouver police investigated him for possession of a stolen semi-automatic handgun. He surrendered it to them, but the following March he lied on an application to buy another semi-automatic handgun, saying he wasn't under indictment for a felony. The application was denied. But he got hold of a gun somehow anyway, because in December 2022 he used it to shoot at Meshay's balcony window. Kirkland's murder charge in Arkansas was still pending, and now the disappearance of a mother and child was connected to his name. On March 17, 2023, the day before Meshay and Layla were reported missing, an Arkansas judge revoked his bail in the murder case. On the 22nd, he appeared in court and admitted he was wanted in Arkansas, but refused to waive extradition to be turned over to the authorities there. The judge ordered that he be held without bail. And that same day, 2 bodies were found.
On Wednesday morning, the Clark County Sheriff's Office got a call from someone who was walking on this rural road in Washougal. The caller described what they believed to be 2 life-sized mannequins down an embankment near a creek. But when deputies arrived on scene, they discovered 2 bodies. Investigators contacted Vancouver police, who determined this was likely Meshay Melendez and Layla Stewart.
They'd both been killed by gunshot wounds to the head. Meshay had been shot once and Layla twice, and Layla had been assaulted. The investigators took this discovery to their interrogation of Kirkland.
Do you think I'm here to judge you?
No.
Do you think I'm here because maybe God put me here?
You're here to do your job.
Yeah. And what do you think that job is?
To find them.
To find them, right? Do you think maybe I have found them?
No.
You don't know?
I hope not.
You hope not?
I hope not in the way you think. I hope not in the way that I think you're about to say.
What do you think I'm about to say? Kirkland.
Just tell me you're okay.
I can't tell you that.
That's all I need to hear. Just tell
What do
me
you
you're
think?
okay.
Where do you think they are?
I don't know.
Kirkland, I'm here to ask about what actually happened. And I wouldn't be here having this conversation with you if I didn't think that maybe you'd want to talk about it.
I didn't do anything.
You didn't do anything?
No, sir.
So what did happen?
I don't know. I don't know where they are.
You don't know where they are?
I've been calling and calling.
I get it. Do you think that maybe that might be some denial?
No, sir.
Kirkland.
I've made my mistake before.
Okay, fair enough, man. I'm not here to about past stuff.
I don't run from it.
Then tell me about what happened to that baby.
I don't know.
You do know.
I don't.
Kirkland, I don't want to go down the road with all the stuff that I have on my phone. I want to hear it from a man. You're a man, right?
I am.
You're a man that maybe made a mistake, not a monster?
Not a monster.
Okay.
I made my mistakes in the past.
So tell me about the mistake that happened.
The one in Arkansas?
No, I don't. Not about that, man. Tell me about this baby.
I don't know.
Kirkland tried to bring the conversation back to his past charges, including the murder in Arkansas. But he'd already confessed to that. This was something new, and it displayed eerily similar hallmarks to the killing of Curtis Urquhart. They'd been shot in the head like Curtis and left in a ditch also like Curtis.
I was there. I was at the scene. I know what road you were off of. I know why there's mud on your car. I know why there's tire tracks down that little road that goes up where you turned around and went back. I know all that stuff. I don't need to know if you did it. Everyone wants to know why. And I think a man like you would at least give people the peace of mind of to at least know why.
I didn't do anything.
The investigator urged him to confess, but he refused.
But this is your opportunity to at least tell your family why.
I'm done talking. I told you I didn't know anything. We can go with an attorney from there.
He asked for his attorney. But even without a confession, the evidence was mounting that he'd had something to do with Meshay and Layla's murders. On March 13th and 15th, he texted a friend asking if she knew of secluded local areas like woods or a place where he could bury a gun. On the 15th, he also transferred $4,200 from Meshay's bank account to his own using her phone. He texted another friend on March 18th saying, "I need to get rid of this stolo," which is slang for a stolen car. It was possible he was referring to the Charger that Meshay and Layla had last been seen in. On a search of this car, the police discovered shell casings, a large blue tarp, and both Meshay and Layla's blood. It seemed certain that they'd been killed in his car. They talked to the friend that Meshay and Kirkland had been staying with on the night of the 11th. This friend, Joe, said that they'd both left the house at about 5 a.m. March 12th, saying they were going out to make some money. Kirkland came back in his car at about 8 a.m., blasting loud music with Meshay in the passenger seat. She was naked from the waist down and seemed to be passed out. Joe reached into the car to turn the music down, and Kirkland shouted at her to close the car door. But she didn't suspect something was amiss. Fatefully, she handed Layla and Layla's kitten Rocky over to Kirkland, and Kirkland drove off. Kirkland often took Layla to school, and she trusted him like a father. When she got into his car that morning, she would have no idea what was coming, and no idea that her mom was already dead in the front seat. Her life had so much promise as a 6-year-old child, and it was cruelly snatched away.
And Layla had a little kitten named Rocky. That night, pictures of her, she had a kitten on her shirt. She loved cats. And when Joanna Cardinal put her in the defendant's car, she had Rocky with her. And it's our hope that Rocky was the last thing that she saw at the time in which she passed this earth.
The loss of Layla has left a void in my heart that can never be filled. Every day, I wake up with the pain, knowing that my little girl will never grow up.
Our family has been torn apart by grief and the endless questions that haunt us every day. Why?
He a 7-year-old and then shot her and killed her.
You have judges that let him out, should never have let him out. You have a district attorney who gave him bail. Why would you give somebody bail who has this kind of a history?
With all the evidence mounting, Kirkland had to change his story. He then claimed that he'd given Meshay a pistol to use to protect herself in her line of work, about which he was vague. He said that on that fateful morning they'd been arguing in the car about his second cell phone, and she'd fumbled with her gun during the conversation. She'd accidentally shot her daughter twice and then herself. This was what he claimed. But why try to hide the bodies? And it would be some coincidence, with the facts of the case so closely resembling the 2017 murder of Curtis Urquhart. Ultimately, Kirkland Warren had no choice but to plead guilty. He admitted to the murders of Layla and Meshay, and he entered an Alford plea to a charge of assaulting Layla. This plea allowed him to maintain his innocence, but functioned as a guilty plea in sentencing. For these crimes, he was sentenced to life in prison.
I can't even make any more memories. The 7 years was all I had. And it's all because of Kirkland Warren. And I want him to suffer every single day.
Meshay's family questions why he was allowed out on bail for the domestic violence charge when he had a murder case standing against him.
The trouble is when we have a legal system with district attorneys and judges, they are horribly undertrained in domestic violence. They know laws, but they don't know a perpetrator, they don't know the characteristics of a perpetrator, and they don't know what they do to a victim.
He also pleaded guilty to Curtis's murder. His sentence for this 7-year-old crime will run concurrently with the life sentence handed down for the killing of Layla and Meshay. And though Arkansas is a death penalty state, that punishment has been taken off the table. It was abolished in Washington state in 2023. The motive for the murders remains unknown, though his interference in Meshay's accounts and his theft scheme involving his wife Monet suggest it was potentially financial. Monet pleaded guilty to 2 counts of first-degree theft and 2 counts of attempted identity theft, and was sentenced to 2 years probation. Kirkland Warren now begins his life sentence. But the Clark County community is angry, and Meshay and Layla's family won't ever move on.
From the family to the larger community, this tragic case has brought many tears. At a vigil at Vancouver's Esther Short Park the weekend after Meshay and Layla's bodies were found, hundreds came out to remember and honor them, including Layla's classmates.
We really want to honor the family and make sure they get lots of support for that Layla and her mom is gone.
Close friends with Layla and Meshay. Layla was pretty much my niece. So yeah, this has been very heartbreaking. We hope something changes. We hope that if a victim comes out and they're scared, that the police do way more than what they did for her.
What do you think about this tragic story? Could Meshay and Layla's killings have been prevented? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, stay safe, keep up with our channel, and we will see you very soon on The Decoder.